So the Butthole Surfers, I didn't have enough money. You know, I'm a young punk rocker. I don't have any money. I don't have enough money for the tickets for the Butthole Surfers. So I go root through my penny jar, which was this 30 caliber ammo can I'd been dumping pennies into for eons. Sluggo's working door, and I show up, and Sluggo's like, it's $5 or $7 or whatever it was for the tickets for the Butthole Surfers, and I give him this metal ammo can of pennies. And he's like, how much in there? I was like, I don't know. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to give this to the guys. And of course, one of the guys from the Butthole Surfers comes by and he goes, cool, we can use it to throw at people. And I don't know if they used them that night, but I'm pretty sure they were pitching handfuls of the stuff at the audience at some point or another. And they loved it. So what do you expect from the Butthole Surfers?
Yeah.
At the Quartet. What is alternative music today? You know, alternative music back then, back in the 80s and the 90s, really isn't as alternative as some of us seem to want to remember it as being. You have to remember, it was on MTV. Okay, MTV wasn't quite full mainstream, but it wasn't like this total underground thing. It was at every kid's televisions, or cable if they had cable. So how alternative really was alternative music? It wasn't mainstream, it wasn't top 40, but it certainly wasn't, it was a counter stream, but it wasn't exactly totally off on its own as if nobody ever heard of it. Today, alternative music, as we kind of know, as underground or independent, is probably a lot more alternative than so-called alternative music was back when it was supposedly alternative. I saw the first REM show, which was the tour they did after Murmur came out. And they played the Bush Campus Student Center, which at the time was, they had a bar, which because of the drinking age, they'd shoved the bar all the way down to like one little corner. And the rest of it they turned into a pizza joint. And they had a Hardee's in there. And so they where they put the stage, there was a stage on the side of the stage where the audience was with the Hardee's sign up high, you know, big letters, Hardee's. And so they felt like they were playing in a Hardee's, which they literally were. And Mitch Easter opened for them. And frankly, the acoustics were awful. Absolutely awful. You had the high ceilings with all the HVAC ducts, the ventilations and the metal pipes and everything. You had glass windows on both sides. The acoustics were terrible. All I remember about that show was that basically I couldn't stand it. And if it wasn't for the fact that it actually was REM, it sounded like a bad cover band playing REM songs. But, you know, it was REM. Great show, had a great vibe, but musically they didn't sound too good. Then they came back. A year after that, they came back and they played outside. And the big thing about that outside show was that the night, I may not get it quite correct, but the night before they were playing Princeton University, tickets were not cheap, 20, 30, 40 bucks. The night after, they were playing the Capitol Theater in Passaic, and again, tickets were 20, 30, 40 bucks. So in the meantime, you could also see them in between these two expensive shows for free at an outdoor concert, which meant, number one, it's outdoors. So everyone brought coolers and kegs. And in fact, the fraternities, a lot of fraternities bought half barrels down, and they set up in the back of the field, and they had half barrel barbecues going. So there was this, you know, it was spring, it was a beautiful sunny day, they had barbecues going, food, you could smell the food cooking, the beer was everywhere. So REM came back the year after that, and they played the LBAC, Lewis Brown Athletic Center, the big basketball stadium over there on Livingston College. And I was at the show, and somebody, REM had come out for an encore, Michael Stipe was singing, and somebody threw something at the stage. I don't know if it was a glow stick or a plastic bottle or something, and it bounced off of Michael Stipe's head, which led him to be quite irate, understandably so. And he walked off the stage in the middle of the song. Everybody started saying "a-hole," you know, against the guy who threw the stuff, but that was pretty much the end of the show. And so that really kind of ended the whole REM at Rutgers thing on a kind of sour note. But REM was actually in this studio recording their ID. This studio was new at the time, and they just finished building it. And REM does an ID, Mitch Easter does an ID. This studio with this beautiful coral color was done in the 80s in Miami Vice era. So Mitch Easter's commenting on the Miami Vice coral color of the studio. The fact that Rutgers, of course, being a student a university had a lot of alternative type up and coming bands that weren't quite that big yet. They would play Rutgers, and then of course, you know, the 3 a.m. close. So the Rutgers shows would get out by 11:30, 12, 11, 11:30, 12. And of course the band and Matt Pinfield would head over to the Melody and proceed to have this sort of after hours party. Pop Will Eat Itself, of course, all headed over there after they played the Cook Student Center, which was one of the better shows that I remember seeing out in the Cook campus.